Good morning. Welcome back to you hardy souls that are here for the second day, and welcome to those who might be here for your first day. For those that didn't get to know me yesterday, I'm Ken Doxey, Vice Provost for Academic Affairs and Professor of Chemistry. I will MC for today. I'll give you a brief overview of today. We're going to start by completing our survey of the major administrative units in the university. We'll hear first from research and innovation, then from student life, and then finally from finance and administration. Each of these sessions is relatively short. Each of those divisions is quite large. And so here just a sampling of people and topics from those groups today. Following that, we will break into a series of speakers that represent support and services for faculty and administration. We couldn't quite figure out how to fit them into the right slots and have it make sense. So we grouped them by functionality rather than by administration. I want to remind you, if you haven't noted, that this afternoon we have breakout sessions. We complete here around 12:30, and I'll be panicking about time, but we'll finish around 12:30. The United Academics, I believe, are coordinating a lunch that will be held here starting at 12:30, and then at 2 o'clock we're going to have here an informal discussion section about non-tenure, or primarily for non-tenure related faculty, although I guess anybody's welcome to come. Barbara Altman will lead that discussion. I believe I'll be here as well. At the same time, and running through the afternoon, there will be technology drop-in sessions held in different rooms throughout this building. The room numbers are listed on your program. If you're going to be teaching starting next week, I really urge you to do two things before you walk into your class full of students. One is to visit your classroom, so that you know where it is and you know how things work and what you might need. And the other is to recognize that your classroom almost certainly is equipped with technology, and maybe you know how to use it, but maybe you don't, and you really don't want to figure out you don't in front of your class. So these drop-in sessions I strongly recommend. I think you'll hear more about them from Helen Chu a little bit later today. Sonia and I convened yesterday. I remember I promised you that it wouldn't rain on our barbecue today. If you've been in Oregon for anything like this time, you know there's only one way to guarantee that. Actually, there's two ways. I carried an umbrella, so it won't rain, and we moved it indoors. So now undoubtedly the sun will break out. It'll be gorgeous, but the barbecue dinner starting at 5 p.m. will be held here. And thanks to many people who mobilized to make that happen. As you walked across campus this morning, you might have seen something miraculous happening. That is thousands of parents dropping off their children. And I have a hard time with this one because 4 years ago I did this for my son on the far side of the country. And next year I'll do it again with my daughter, who's decided to graduate a year early. As of 2 weeks ago, we knew that. Say hello to them. Be impressed. They're really doing a remarkable thing. This is an impressive day. One other thing I wanted to mention before I introduce our first speakers, as you're doing coffee break or as you're on campus for the next 50 years or however long you choose to stay, know that out in the area, the lobby area of this building, there are interesting opportunities to learn more about the university, its history, its faculty, its staff. One thing in particular that might be interesting is the Global Scholars Map that lets you, I haven't tried it yet, and one of these days when I have time, you'll be able to tap on it and hear me talk about what I do in other countries too. But you can learn about what's being done by people at the university in places around the world. And I mention that in part because there are so many of us doing so many international things. We heard from Steve Wooten yesterday a little bit. If you're about to go somewhere outside the borders of this country, check around. Ask the international office. You will almost certainly find that there is somebody else here who is doing things where you're going. Even Madagascar, where I was last summer. And maybe you can find new opportunities for research or collaboration. Maybe you can simply drop in to say hello. Maybe you can avoid being embarrassed, like I almost was in Chiang Mai in northern Thailand, when at the last minute I thought, I should drop by the university and introduce myself and see if they have any interest in the University of Oregon. And I didn't do that, and I'm glad I didn't, because we have a whole group of faculty working with Chiang Mai University. And I don't like looking like I don't know what's happening at my own school. So think about taking advantage of that. All right, with that, let me turn the first session over to Brad Sheldon, who's our Interim Vice President for Research and Innovation.
Hi, I'm Brad Shelton, Interim Vice President for Research and Innovation. I'm also Vice Provost for Budget and Planning. In other words, I'm the evil budget guy. But it's been very well established. Don't worry about feeling that way about me. I'm just going to take a real quick second here, and then I'm going to turn this over for an informational session from the real brains of my operation, Moira Kilty, who is Senior Assistant Vice President. My office is all about really service to the research interests of the institution. We have a lot of services, and we're very service-oriented. We work at a sort of day-to-day scale of helping people find opportunities for expanding their research. Now, that might be through internal programs in the institution. It might be through looking for sponsorship for your research from outside the university. We work at helping you to manage the sort of business side, the financial side of your research once you have established outside support. We also, very important part of our role is helping with intellectual properties, innovation, entrepreneurship, helping to protect our faculty and our OAs who are creating new ideas that may go to market, helping them work through the sort of business world to get established. So we do all of these things. That's sort of the day-to-day scale, and then at a sort of a higher scale, we also we look at sort of what are the big structures that need to be in place to support research writ large. So I'll give you an example. This is my favorite new example. So one of the things that the University of Oregon is known for is research involving zebrafish. How many of you have ever even seen a zebrafish? Look at that. So here's a question, and there's a couple people in the audience who have already heard this. No fair answering if you've already heard this. How many zebrafish are there on this campus? Any guesses? A few? Zero? It's not zero. There's 100,000 zebrafish on this campus. So now think about the infrastructure that's required to deal with 100,000 zebrafish. That is not something that happens overnight. That is not something that an individual researcher or even a group of researchers could make happen on their own. That's the sort of thing that requires a partnership between the research community and the people who control the infrastructure. We have to work together to make that sort of thing happen. So again, small scale, large scale. On the small scale, day-to-day operations, come to us for help with lots of things. Maybe we can help you find a couple $1,000s to travel to something. Day-to-day, small scale. Bigger scale, we just finished a project that required $12 million to renovate one of our zebrafish labs. So we work at all those scales, and it's all about promoting, helping, pushing forward research, getting our research to have impact on the community, on the world. That's what we do. Now, Moira is going to come up here, and she's going to be a lot more specific. Here are some of the things that we can help you with. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Moira Kilty. I do work with the Vice President and a large number of folks who are going to be helping you with your research portfolio at the university. Research at the University of Oregon, we use that as a short one word, but we mean research, creative arts, discovery, inquiry, scholarship. We are a research-intensive university, according to Carnegie. We are, you've probably heard ad nauseum, we are the AAU institution in Oregon. And that really means that research is in our DNA. So even for those of you who might be, say, an OA and you're working in printing and mailing, guess what? I was just talking to one of your colleagues yesterday about a project that is about sponsored research. We have PIs who are in the police department, Capitol Construction, music and dance, the law school, CAS. I talk to folks in every college across campus throughout the year, as do my colleagues in all of the different service units. So even if you think, well, I'm not working on a lab science right now, in your career here, you will touch hopefully something that has to do with our office. We have 4 major units that we like to talk about at orientation. The thing to keep in mind is that we are over $100 million worth of sponsored awards every year. That's kind of where we are right now. I think it's at 110 this last year. That puts us in a different playing field than those institutions that are under 100 million. So we have a little more attention by the feds, for example, federal government, than an institution that's under that. So compliance is a big part of our role at the institution. So animal care, human subjects, biohazards, as it's involved in research, they flow up into our office. The University of Oregon's VP Office for Research and Innovation is a little bit different than the institutions where you may have come from, where money from the sponsored arena is actually controlled both when you're submitting your proposals, but also when the money comes in, and also the way the money distributes back out. Institutions you've been at may have had the monies happening over in the finance office or in the provost's office or in the dean's office. Here, it's all within the vice president's division. How's that different? Well, it means that our vice president is actually somebody that you may touch because he's a resource distribution player at the university, which may not have been true at the institutions you were at before. So you may come in as an individual looking for some help with some leveraging funds that for a project that you're working on, either as an individual, a group, or as a department unit. That's for some faculty, that will be different than what they would have experienced before. It also means that we are very engaged at the budget and appointment side as well for research appointments. So you're going to see our vice president's name on documents regularly, be it your contract or through other kinds of financial matters. The 4 units that I was talking about then are what we call pre-award or research development services. Like many of our sister institutions, we offer staff to help you look out at the external landscape and see what might fit your research portfolio. We do that through workshops. We do that through one-on-one conversations with you. We really want to know what you want to do, and that helps us think about how to look at the landscape for you. We do that through a weekly newsletter that people with faculty appointments in this room will start seeing in their email on Tuesdays. We're really pleased with this particular way of communicating with you. It's a curated list of opportunities that have come up and that are coming up in terms of their proposal deadline. It is not just a list that comes out of the Federal Register. We know something about our faculty and we are curating it for you. In fact, we were really pleased because a faculty member told us that his daughter, who is at a prestigious private institution, looks forward to her weekly forward from her dad because ours is so well put together, and it's also a place where we put out announcements, and it's kind of snazzy looking. So look for that, and if you don't get it, just go to our website and you can get into it that way and subscribe. You might think, oh, I don't need this, and you can always unsubscribe, so we don't just spam you. But give it a week or two. We have found that people who unsubscribed have been coming back online as they have started to hear from their colleagues how useful it is, so give it a chance. That office also runs all the internal award programs. So we run a series of programs to provide support at different stages in your research activity. And so our website is full of information, and we ask you to take a look at that and give us a call, because one of the benefits of being at the University of Oregon is we're a medium-sized institution, but we're really research intensive, so we have all the services that you'd expect at one of your bigger research universities, but we can actually have a person-to-person contact that you might not be able to have at some of your bigger institutions. So definitely pick up the phone. Sponsored project services is the second major unit. It's the really big one. At your previous institution, that may have been grants and contracts, or it could have been just research administration. We call it Sponsored Project Services. SPS is its acronym. That is a pre- and post-award shop. Okay, so the University of Oregon, like all other institutions, we are the official submission authority for your awards that are going out as the University of Oregon principal investigator. Sometimes you hit the button for submit, sometimes it's us, but it has to be reviewed by us. And we have an electronic proposal clearing system, we call it EPCS. You'll get to know it, and we run workshops to learn how to get your submissions out through the university. We have 4 individuals that work with the whole campus, and I really encourage you to get to know them if you're putting out your proposals. We have unit assignments, so they really do know your area and the kind of agencies that you'll be applying for. The university is the accepting authority for your awards. I know you put out all the blood, sweat, and tears to get those proposals out, but actually the awards, if they come in, they come into the institution. And then we partner with you, the principal investigator, in the post-award, in the administration of the award. Sometimes that's not fully understood. And so we have an award setup. We set up our own accounts for your grants. That's actually within our own shop. We have our own contracting group, so you're working with people that really understand how to work with sponsoring agencies when you're doing contracts and subcontracts. And then we have a whole set of folks who do sponsored award administration with you on the post-award side. That's typically financial reporting, closing out and making sure that you're in compliance with the financial matters on your award. So it's kind of cradle to grave, if that makes sense. And then we have the Research Compliance Office, which we've sort of split into 2, I think is a good way of thinking about it. We have the folks that are working in the biological sciences, and then we have the folks working with human subjects. If that kind of helps you think about them separately. We have lots of folks to help you with the compliance side. It's an ever-changing world on compliance, so you shouldn't feel alone. Any questions, you really should just pick up the phone and call. Email around compliance can feel a little cold, and sometimes because it's so specific, people can get into a funny dynamic. So I really urge you to pick up the phone. The other nice thing is you're probably going to know folks who sit on your IRB or on your IACU committees. These are the compliance committees that oversee human subjects and animals. And because, again, we're not that big, you'll actually know people who sit on other faculty or sitting on those committees. So you can go and talk with them and get a sense of what it's like here and how we run things. All right, and I do urge you to go and network and get to know folks that way. And then as Brad was talking about, intellectual property is another major area for us. And we are another place where we're significantly unique is that our intellectual property management is, you may have known it back at your other institutions as technology transfer or industrial liaison. But our group has always been, at least in the decades since I've been here, focused much more broadly than many of the offices across the country. We have a very strong copyright expertise in our unit. And that is because our College of Education is such a big driver of sponsored research on campus. And so, and they do a lot of assessment tools and software and all sorts of things around copyright, which aren't necessarily for the private marketplace. They really want them out into the public domain. So Oregon has created a niche for itself to be thinking about intellectual property and moving it out in ways that are not just about sort of like the biomedical translation, which is where we tend to think about technology transfer and industrial liaison. So we have a very heavy clientele in College of Education. We've had folks from the humanities working with us, and I think they're as adept at working with faculty in the non-sciences as they are in the sciences, and I think that really makes us unique. So you might want to think a little bit outside the box. We have plenty of folks over in music who have come over to talk to us, and I think that's a little unusual. We're really excited and proud of that. They also, I should have stepped back for a moment, in compliance, one of the less pleasurable things to talk about, misconduct of research and financial conflict of interest, that also falls into our office and runs up to our vice president. So those are the sort of major units that work under us in terms of administrative services. We do have 19 research centers and institutes. Those, we have a proud history of being interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, and those centers really reflect that. OIMB, which is our Marine Biology Institute, is, when was that, 1930 something or other, is actually the first of our interdisciplinary institutes, although our Molecular Biology Institute has a tendency to want to take that credit. And we also have 9 core research facilities. Those are the infrastructure facilities that Brad was just talking about. They also reflect the breadth of academic inquiry on this campus. We have the kinds of zebrafish facilities. We have a neuroimaging facility, which is a 3T magnet, actually. We're very excited about that because we're a liberal arts institution. We're not a hospital, so that's pretty interesting to have and exciting to have here. But we also have core facilities that support folks in the social sciences. We have an assessment and statistics evaluation group as well. So it really runs the gamut of inquiry across campus. I understand we might have 2 more joining us sometime this year, so we could be up to 11 core facilities. For our size, that is an enormous number of facilities to have identified and working in support of you and the research here. So we put together some brochures. They're up front, they're pretty, and they may help you, just if you have them in your desk, you might be able to remember who we are, because there's a lot of information that's coming through today, so I urge you to pick it up on your way out. Check out our website. Like I said, there's tons of information on there, and we really are waiting to get your call and get your email and start working with all of you. I did want to see if there were any questions from the group. Anybody coming to us with grant money, for example? No? Yes? Yep, absolutely. We do both one-on-one and we do workshops. In fact, there'll be an NSF-NIH workshop specifically. I think it's scheduled for November, but it's up on the website. And we do those on a regular basis. We target different areas. There'll be an NEH one. We also run a major, every other year, we run a major workshop on proposal writing. Proposal writing is really different than writing out for your publications and such. It's a different skill set, and we bring in an outside group to help us with that. It's been very successful for particularly faculty either starting their career and also those who are moving outside of their original area of inquiry. We found that to be very helpful. And then we run workshops with our own staff as well. Yep.
Maybe a follow-on to that.
Yeah.
The president yesterday talked with us about the strategies and the goals and aspirations of the university, and one of those things, I don't know if you mentioned specifically, but it's frequently mentioned, is our AAU status and our desire to firm our status up in that group of universities. research is one of the things that is used as a key metric in that determination. Separate observation, this university, I think, does a really good job of defining scholarship, not just as research, which I think is easy to interpret as those of the scientists. But we define scholarship as research and creative practice. So we try to encompass, I think that's another word we use too. We try to cover the full ground of what all of you might be doing. You mentioned NEH. Could you talk just a little bit more about support for faculty who may be in those many disciplines that for which it's easy to think, there really aren't opportunities for us?
Sure. Absolutely. In fact, we have a really impressive rate of getting NEH summer stipend awards. For those of you who might know about the summer stipend, essentially that's a limited submission program that the NEH runs. It's prestigious for faculty in the humanities, and we can put forward 2 every summer. And I think we figured that on average we get 1 award at least a year. And so the hit rate actually is awfully good. And some of that comes from the fact that our faculty have internal research award programs that are competitive that we run. And we run them, they were loosely based, not so loosely based, around that summer stipend program. So there's actually an opportunity to try it out among your peers here at the U of O. We call that the Faculty Research Award Program. And many of the faculty who have applied for that program actually apply for the NEH later on and are successful. That Faculty Research Award Program we offer up to 20 awards a year. It happens every year at the same time, and the hit rate there is about 1 in 3. So it's a good, a pretty good chance that you'll get awarded if you write a good proposal. So we run a series of those kinds of internal award programs that have been helpful. We also, one of our centers is the Oregon Humanities Center, and they run programs that support faculty across the campus, not just in CAS. And some of their monies are monies that are directed by the vice president for certain kinds of programs where it is really difficult to get some external funding for some of the research in the creative arts and the humanities. Does that?
Yeah, I want to stress, Moira said that we're a cradle-to-grave organization, but we're also an east-to-west organization. We're not about just sponsored research. We're not about just the natural sciences. We're not about just the College of Education, which just does gangbusters, by the way, in case you don't know that. We are about the whole university, the creative endeavor of the entire institution is what we're trying to help with. So don't ever think that we're not thinking about you or the people that you work with.
Any other questions from the group? All right, we'll give you some time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I hope you all get to know Brad and Moira and the folks they work with very well. We're running a little ahead of schedule, and I should know better than to assume that will continue. But I can't help but mention, since Moira brought up the issues of compliance and conflicts of interest and things, those are the nasty things that we get. Forms we have to fill out and emails that require us to do things before proposals will be submitted, and we all get kind of grouchy about that. But recognize that that's not Moira and Brad and us trying to be tough on you. The university, I think perhaps I mentioned yesterday my view of administration, but if not, I view it as existing primarily to help the faculty do what they would like to be doing. What the faculty would not like to be doing is filling out conflict of interest forms. But the world has changed, and there are things that need to be done, and some of those things that need to be done can happen behind the scenes, and you can be blissfully unaware, and others of them require your intervention, and those sorts of things, unfortunately, are some of those other things. So bear with us. Recognize that everybody here is trying to make it as easy as possible for you to do your work. But sometimes that involves things that feel like periphery. I'm looking to see if our next speaker is here yet. Yes. Excellent. So I'm going to start our next session. Okay. Perfect timing. She will slide in just as I introduce her. The next... That's okay. I'll end up talking for a minute. The next section is about student life. It's going to be led by our Vice President for Student Life. Until very recently, Robin Holmes was known as the Vice President for Student Affairs, and they underwent a name change at the group's behest to try to more accurately capture the spirit of what the office is all about. She runs a very large administrative unit that touches every corner of campus. Student life, why are they here? Well, you all are here because we have students. And so, Robin, I will turn it over to you to lead the rest of your session.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken. Good morning. I'm a little bit out of breath because I was moving very quickly. When I saw Brad Shelton coming out and I knew where I was in the agenda, I went, well, I won't say the word I said, but I made it. So anyway, good morning to all of you. Glad that you're here. Let me also add my official welcome that others have been giving to you. And just as others have done, let me also say thank you for being here. We're excited that you are. And whether you teach, you supervise, you manage, coach, counsel, or serve our campus community in other ways, your decision to join the University of Oregon is not only a good one, but it's also indicative of your commitment to our greatest asset, and that would be our students. So I've been on campus since 1992. Prior to becoming the vice president about 7 years ago, I also served as the director of the counseling center here on campus, as well as the dean of students. And as the vice president for student life, I have the pleasure of working each and every day with our wonderful students and helping them to navigate their educational journey with us. The Division of Student Life is made up of departments and programs and professionals whose job it is to help ensure that students are healthy, both emotionally and physically, have opportunities to participate in a wide range of physical, cultural, and social activities, ranging from service learning to student government to career development and really everything in between. Students often reflect that it is these beyond the classroom experiences that really solidify the outstanding academic preparation that they receive from our wonderful faculty. And we all know that healthy, engaged students are much more likely to not only be awake in your classes, but to graduate and to succeed in life. Specifically, the Division of Student Life has over 700 employees, including 200 officers of administration and 70 officers of instruction. There are 8 departments within the division, and I think you might have some information on your table that also goes over this, but the departments are the Career Center, the Counseling and Testing Center, the Urban Moral Union, the University Health Center, the Holden Center for Leadership and Community Engagement, University Housing, which is our biggest department, and you're seeing all of that happening right now with Move-In, Physical Education and Recreation, and the Office of the Dean of Students. As I mentioned, the materials you've been given today include some contact information for each and every one of our departments and more details about the programs and services that we offer. I encourage you to check us out, come visit us, and of course, if you need anything, we really offer for you to call us at any time. We're happy to help. We're here to help our students do well and to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful, but we also are here to make sure that you have the tools you need to assist our students throughout their academic career. So don't hesitate to contact us. You're going to hear that a lot here at Oregon, that we're just small enough to be a very tight community, and when people say contact us, we really do mean it, so take advantage of that. And if the need arises, we're also here to help you with an emergency response or consultation regarding our students, because sometimes they do get in harm's way or things happen, and we're definitely here to help with those things as well. But before I close, I want to give just a quick update about some of the important things that are going on in the Division of Student Life. You may have noticed, as you've been walking on campus, that there's quite a bit of construction that's going on right now, especially in the middle of campus. In addition to the wonderful Straub Hall construction that's almost complete, our Student Recreation Center is getting a major renovation and expansion. It's pretty close to being finished. We are excited to open the new rec center in January of this upcoming year. You're going to also see that we have renovation and construction of the Student Union right in the heart of campus, fondly called the EMU. And these construction projects are almost completely student-funded projects. and they're going to ensure that as the university grows, then the facilities that serve our students grow as well. I also want to give you a special invitation so that you feel free to utilize both of these facilities too. We believe in being a healthy campus. That means keeping all of you healthy. And so we have some of the best facilities regarding recreation in the town. So we hope that you will take advantage of that as well as utilize the EMU. We're working on the second year of our Student Life Strategic Plan. It's offered us an opportunity to articulate our goals for the next 5 years. We have 3 main goals: to 1, create an exceptional experience for every student; 2, to serve as a model of equity, inclusion, and collaboration as a division; and 3, to prioritize our decisions using evidence-based analysis, working to maximize effectiveness and efficiencies. These goals will help ensure that we continue the tradition at the University of Oregon, and that is the enormously important task of educating the entire students with both curricular and co-curricular offerings that prepare our students to be active global citizens. We strive to have the best residential top-flight university in the country. As such, we make sure that students have a safe campus, are actively engaged, they can study, learn, and play 24/7, and that they understand the expectations that we have of them as community members. We're committed to providing our students with the opportunity to live, learn, and do, as we like to say, in an environment that fosters community, embraces diversity, and assists students as they prepare for their future, preparing them to meet the world with confidence and skills as ducks, and challenging them to do their part to change the world. I urge you to join us in this noble goal. I just want to take a few minutes now to introduce some of my leadership staff who are here, and they're going to talk a bit about the 4 priority areas that we've developed for the Division of Student Affairs, Student Life. We just changed our name, so sometimes we all forget. But before I do that, I just, again, want to welcome you and say thank you for joining our community, and congratulations for choosing the University of Oregon. We're all very glad that you did. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Shelley Kerr, who's going to just talk briefly about our priority of safety and well-being for our campus and for our students. Dr. Paul Shong, who's going to talk a little bit about leadership and career efforts, and Dr. Shakura Martin, who will talk about community engagement. And then I think we're going to wrap up with Sandy Weintraub, who is our Director of Conduct and Community Standards, and he's going to just give you a brief update. So we'll start with Shelley.
Well, it's like haunted house. Good morning, and let me add my welcome to the many welcomes you're getting over the course of these 2 days. I want to focus on our safety and well-being initiatives, and we have more safety, prevention, and response efforts than I could spend time talking to you about this morning, so I want to just focus on a few highlights. One is our alcohol education and prevention efforts that begin before students even arrive on campus, a program called Alcohol EDU, an online prevention program that all incoming students under the age of 21 take, and a new program called the Collegiate Recovery Center, which is a program that provides support and structure to students who are in recovery from addictions. We have a lot of sexual assault prevention and response efforts as well. You've probably heard a lot about this in the national news and local news as well. And we have prevention efforts that range from an undergraduate and graduate theater group called Sexual Wellness Advocacy Team, and confidential first responders in the Counseling and Testing Center and the Office of the Dean of Students. We have a pretty extensive suicide and violence prevention programs, and those are accessible to faculty and staff as well. So we're able to come in and do some work with your groups, your units, your departments around suicide prevention and violence prevention. We're invested in promoting positive lifelong habits for a healthy mind and body. And Robin mentioned our newly remodeled, soon-to-be open recreation center, probably the best gym you're going to find in the community, if not the state. And this rec center has expanded fitness space with weights and cardio spaces, group exercise, yoga studio, a new aquatic center with a 12-lane lap pool for fitness swimming, water polo, water aerobics, a rec pool, whirlpools for relaxation. That one might be pretty appealing to some of you soon. Injury rehabilitation, therapy, and of course at Eugene, so a climbing wall. Again, the rec center is available to faculty and staff, not just students. And we really strive to provide culturally responsive psychological and physical health care to our students. Our professionals in the Counseling Center and the Health Center are specialists in college health and mental health. They're board-certified nurse practitioners, physicians. We have a dentist, licensed psychologist, and licensed professional counselors. Very comprehensive medical care. Not only do we have primary care, but we have specialty care such as acupuncture, allergy and asthma care, dental care, diabetes management, a travel clinic, and a pharmacy right here on campus. We provide flu shots and consultations and immunizations for travel in the travel clinic, and over-the-counter medicines for faculty and staff as well. In terms of the Counseling Center, we provide brief therapy to university students for a range of concerns. Some of the normal, just developmental, transitional kinds of things that students are experiencing, but also things like depression, anxiety, eating disorders, bipolar disorder, suicidal thoughts, the range of less serious to more serious types of concerns that students bring in. And we also provide consultation to faculty and staff about any of the psychological issues you see arising in your departments or in your classrooms. And we provide a crisis and support line that's available anytime the Counseling Center is closed, so not just for students who are having mental health issues, but also at times when you may need to consult with somebody about a psychological issue. There are times you're working with a student and we're closed and you still need some support from us. So those are the range of things that we provide to students, and some of these things to faculty and staff as well, to really make this a safer campus for all of us. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Sandy Weintraub. He has some important information to share that's also related to the safety of campus.
Good morning. So my comments are going to be very brief, and it's basically just to let everyone know about some changes, and in our minds, some really positive changes to both the Student Conduct Code and Student Conduct Process, which are available to our students, and it's important that everyone knows about that initiative so we can make sure that students are utilizing that process that is going to encourage safety, that's going to encourage more responsibility both on campus and in the community. What we have done recently from the Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards is we have been able to work through the processes to get our Student Conduct Code changed, where we now have more jurisdiction to work with more students who may have made some mistakes, who may have done some things that are in violation of our community standards. And there's going to be a lot of information out in the community about the ability to report these incidents to our office. These are to work on some of the cultural issues in our community, like binge drinking and some of the other party situations, noise violations that make our neighborhoods not as conducive to living as they should be around campus. And we're going to be able to be much more responsive to that. If you are working with students, if you are living in the neighborhood surrounding campus, if you're living in town and you're seeing University of Oregon students who may be participating in behaviors that either may be a violation of the Student Conduct Code or just don't seem like they're being good neighbors or good members of the community, we ask you that you let us know, because our job is both to encourage safety, but also to encourage our students to be good citizens to that community. And reporting it to the Dean of Students office, to our office specifically, we'll be able to work with those students, not just through a formal student conduct process, but also through conflict resolution services, where we might participate in restorative processes, facilitated discussions to make sure that students understand that their behavior needs to be of a level that we all expect. And to have the privilege of being a member of this community, that respect is, it's needed. Another thing that just briefly want to touch on for those who are faculty members is we're also can be a resource for everyone here on academic integrity issues. And if any of those issues do come up in your courses, or if you're working with students, please let us know. We can be a great resource there as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Paul Shang, who is the Dean of Students and Associate Vice President. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, on the count of three, go Ducks. 1, 2, 3. Go Ducks! Good. Thank you so much for doing that, and welcome to the University of Oregon. It was about 6 years ago now that I came to this university, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to what I think you'll find to be a very dynamic institution with students who come here to be activists. This is a great institution. Folks are here to change the world, and I'm pleased to be able to share a few thoughts with you about ways that you can encourage students to get involved here on campus and to do things to hone their leadership as well as leadership skills, as well as prepare them for careers in the future. So there are some traditional ways, of course, what we consider to be traditional ways for students to get involved here on campus. We have a large number of fraternities and sororities here, and they will all focus on community service, leadership, philanthropy, and scholarship. And as new faculty, I want to let you know that no rush activities should ever interfere with classroom activities. So if somebody says something about having to attend a rush activity, you can just tell them that that's not actually required, that they should skip class or do anything else. So just a little bit of a notice there. We also have an incredibly active student government association here. I don't know where you come from and what your experience is like with other student governments from your own from your other institutions. But our student government association here is very active, and it's very large, actually. From the executive and the Senate, that might not be such a large number of people, but everything in ASUO is done by committee. So there are lots and lots of students who get involved in the Student Government Association, ASUO, who aren't necessarily elected officials. And it's a great way for them to learn about leadership, to learn about interaction, to hone their interpersonal skills and working with one another. It is something that requires a great deal of focus and attention. So this is something that I would encourage you not necessarily to encourage a student to participate in until you feel like they're pretty secure and they've got good study skills and are really going to be successful at the institution. This is a way for them to grow their skills. But the first thing, of course, is to make sure that students are going to be successful in the classroom. I also am very pleased to tell you about the Holden Center here on campus. It's called the Holden Center for Leadership and Community Engagement. It is the university's hub for leadership and community engagement. And through the Holden Center, students can participate in sponsored spring break activities, and where they can really explore social issues ranging from rural Oregon to places like Nicaragua. One of the trips that they have planned this year is a trip to Cuba. I wish I were going. I remember my own college days where that would have been just a wonderful, wonderful trip to participate in. They also sponsor a lot of different local service opportunities as part of the Duck Corps. So if you meet a student or know students who want to get involved in those kinds of things, and most students here at the University of Oregon are activists and would like to participate in different sorts of activities and give back to the community, the Holden Center is a good place to refer to them too. We all know from the research that students' involvement, students' connections with faculty and staff, their sense of feeling like they're connected to the institution through leadership and career activities really adds to their success rate at the institution and their eventual satisfaction with their university experience. Another good resource I'd like to bring to your attention is our Career Development Center. It's our career center, and this is a wonderful place for students to start going to even as freshmen, so they can start thinking about their resumes. They can start thinking about participating in etiquette dinners, so they'll be prepared for those interviews that'll be going on, even as they apply for internships and so forth, and also to begin getting some career advising and career counseling, as well as kind of enhancing their resume and trying to get the resume up to speed. So it's a great center here on campus, and it's a very, very important resource. And many people think about career centers as places to go to in the junior or senior year. We really want to emphasize that they should start visiting the Career Center as soon as possible to begin to think about what they're going to be doing after their 4 or 5 years are over as undergraduates. I also want to emphasize to you that there are many, many different campus employment opportunities here on campus. Almost 80% of all college students work on work, and that we would like to go ahead and keep them working here on campus, whether it's in your academic departments or through the many different kinds of opportunities that are available through the Division of Student Affairs. And I want to emphasize that the kind of work that they'll be will be available to them will range from those kinds of things that you normally think of, like bussing tables and doing that sort of thing, to actually really important work and work that applies to what they might want to be doing when they graduate. We have a lot of opportunities working with media. We have, of course, lots of opportunities for students to get involved in doing marketing kinds of projects, and great opportunities for them to be teaching other students different kinds of skills, such as in the rec center. So think of us as a source of employment for students as well. The final thing that I want to mention, it doesn't necessarily have to do so much with leadership or career development, but it does speak again to the theme that Sandy and Shelley have initiated, and that's this notion of safety and safety on campus. And I want to encourage you, if you ever have any interactions that seem just a little bit questionable in your mind about student behavior or something that feels a little odd to you, please feel free to call us at the Office of the Dean of Students. My direct number is 68128. Please feel free to give me a call if you just want to talk about some experience that you're having. And my email is pshang, P-S-H-A-N-G, @uoregon.edu, just like yours. So please feel free to interact and give us a call if there's something that's questionable that you've been observing. Finally, I'm leaving this at the resource table. It's a folder, so you can put stuff in it, but what it does is it lists all the resources available for instances of sexual assault that you may hear of, or other kinds of behavior that you think you want to go ahead and discuss with other people here on campus. So I wish you the very best of luck. I look forward to hearing from you. And again, go Ducks. Thank you very much.
So, I'm Shakar Martin. I'm the Assistant Dean of Students, and I think I talk loud enough if I can't. Wait. So, I want to give props to whoever made breakfast, but I feel like carbo loading. There's some carbo loading. So, if you ate the cheese blitzes and you're napping, I will not hold you responsible. I understand there's a lot of carbs back there. I get an opportunity to talk just a few moments about how we work with students, how we engage students, and more importantly, how we can participate in that. We do a lot of services for students, but the model really is, in many areas, to partner and pull folks together. For those who went to college, you can sort of nod. My experience was I pulled up first-generation college students. My parents said, "Here's your stuff, good luck," and they grow up. And I stood there waving and wondering, what am I going to do now? If you go out right now, you'll realize that is a different experience for some, not all, of our students. The University of Oregon and the Division of Student Life really focuses on our student engagement with also parents and families. They are a really important part of student success. So we actually have programs 3 to 4 a year, a newsletter, outreach opportunities that just engage parents and families. A myriad of reasons. One, they're for each other's success. Sometimes we also want to encourage students to do things on our own, so we engage parents. It's a different opportunity. But it really does provide a holistic approach to what it means to be successful. We also know for a variety of different families from different cultural perspectives, their families are their support system, will always be their support system, and we want to make sure we acknowledge that in a really authentic way. So just know that that's an opportunity. Good message. Somebody asked me to use the microphone. I appreciate the feedback. So, whoa, I will not get so, see, that's what happens. Good lesson learned. So we do engage parents and families. It's part of that approach at acknowledging that parents and families are an important part of the success. An additional piece is looking at how, and Paul mentioned this a little bit with students in our Holden Center, but the idea that service and giving back to your community weaves broadly through, I think, the whole university community. I would like to invite all of you, starting on Saturday, there will actually be community service opportunities for students. They're going to be doing a cleanup to Autzen Stadium from Oregon Hall. It's one of many ways that our students, many of who come here saying, I want to get a degree and I want to make a difference. And so we start right here, giving them opportunities to make a difference in this community. And I really encourage you to partner and participate in those events. The MLK Day of Service, a day on. We don't have to work, but it's an opportunity to do that. You can participate. I had a conversation with a student who came up to me at a day on and said, my chemistry professor is here. Yes. It's weird. No, they actually go out and do things and go to the grocery store. But it's not unlike kindergarten teachers, right? But they had this moment where they recognized that partnership outside of the classroom, they were having this whole conversation later about the things I didn't understand about the chemistry of the plants they were pulling and things like that. So it's acknowledging that there's the classroom experience, and then there's the ways in which we connect that classroom experience to our students. And the work we do is vital, and the work you do and participating in that is really, really helpful. So I encourage you to find ways to get involved and also encourage students to do so. They're looking for ways to find a home. It's important that we acknowledge that. And another way that we do that within the division is focusing on programs that are culturally relevant for our students, faculty, and staff. We know that students come here from very diverse backgrounds, diverse families, diverse countries, diverse socioeconomic statuses. And so we want to make sure that we know the same experience doesn't work for every student. And that means, and the same for you as well, that the same experiences doesn't always work. So we provide leadership engagement opportunities that recognize those diverse experiences. I want to put an open invitation for you. October 16th, it's a Thursday evening at 5:30. We will have one of our first big events. It's called Weaving New Beginnings. It's a reception for faculty, staff, and students of color and their allies. It is a wonderful opportunity for our community to come together and just recognize and start the year off in a way that says we recognize the importance of diverse communities in learning. And so please put that in your calendars. Good food, good friends, a great way to meet people. And if anybody thinks they want to go but is not sure, give me an email or a call. I'm happy to meet you and we can walk over. And I'll point you to the food and the cool ways to get connected, and our students are also there. So we do events with the students throughout the year. The following, on Thursday, October 2nd, there'll also be the raising of the flags, of the tribal flags, the 9 flags of the Confederated Tribes of Oregon in the EMU. And that's also a partnership that the Division of Student Life, along with our students, has worked on. And I name these specifically because it really highlights the fact that we provide student leadership opportunities. We advise student organizations who put on huge events and really provide culturally responsive services. And we do so also for our division by focusing on our own multicultural development. You may hear us say the word MCOD. It's a multicultural organizational development. It's a concept and a process of recognizing that you can only provide culturally responsive services if you're doing the work on yourself and your organization. So it's something that allows us to be an organization that provides these services in a collaborative way. I think just in summary saying that the Division of Student Life is about the student experience. We have a lot of stakeholders and partners, and I think some of the most important stakeholders and partners are you. And for you to have an opportunity to get involved outside of the classroom or your office in these opportunities is really vital for our students, and we hope you take advantage of that. I hope to see you at the cleanup, at Weaving, at an event. Please come over and say hi. And if you'd like more information, we have all that on the calendar. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Holmes, who's going to be available for questions, but we'll be available afterwards as well.
Thank you, Shakora. So we've had a chance to put names and faces with some key folks in the division who work regularly with faculty and staff. And so we wanted to make sure that that happened early in the orientation, and we appreciate having this opportunity. And I think we're going to give you back some time, Ken, because we're done unless you want us to do some questions and answers, or we can just give you back the 25 minutes.
That's a dangerous topic.
Sure. Okay. Are there any questions for the Dean of Students or the Counseling Center Director or myself about students or student activities or ways in which you might need to engage with folks in the Division of Student Life? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It depends on the issue. There are, first of all, students have something called FERPA, which is a federal protection of privacy. So we're not allowed to give out protected information about students, actually to anybody, including folks within our own community, unless they have a need to know. And everyone takes that very, very seriously. It's a federal law, and it's there for the protection of all of our students nationwide. There's certain issues that we have an obligation, we as a university community have an obligation to do something about and to report. One of those issues would be sexual assault or sexual harassment, for example. Those are governed by federal law. And so there is no confidentiality in regards to that. We're all reporters of that unless you hold a particular type of status as a confidential reporter. So all of Shelley's staff in the counseling center are confidential. So if you have an issue, a student has an issue that you know about, and you feel as though that student wants that to remain confidential, the best thing to do is to send them to the counseling center or to the health center so that can remain confidential. In Paul's shop, they handle all the prevention and response for sexual assault, drug and alcohol, those types of things. And they have 2 confidential reporters in their office as well. And so that's another place in which you could send students. But we're all mandatory reporters. And so if any of those issues come up, it's important for us to be clear with students and letting them say that we're concerned, we want to get them help, and they're going to have choices. It's not that we're going to wrench that choice away and call the police and do all the things that they don't want to have happen. It's just that you cannot keep that confidential if they give you information that's reportable. Other information is not governed by federal law. So if a student is having mental health issues or things like that, and you want to have a confidential conversation, then you're free to call the counseling center, and that information can be held, unless it crosses over into something that is reportable. So, for example, if we find out a student is suicidal, then we can't hold that confidential if there's imminent danger for that student. So there's a line. It depends on what the issue is, but the most important thing is that we care on the campus community. All of us do, and we're going to try to get that student help as soon as possible, and we're going to do that in partnership with the student. So sometimes students will want something to be reported. A lot of times they won't right away until later, and we'll work with the student to make sure that they're comfortable throughout that process. Does that kind of get to your question? Okay, great. Any other questions? There's going to be more information. I think there should be a communication from the president coming out this week for the beginning of school that talks a little bit about mandatory reporting, as well as the resources that are available on the campus. So you're going to start hearing about all of those things very, very shortly. But please give us feedback if you have questions or concerns, or you're not sure. We want to know what you might be confused about or have questions about. Yeah. Someone else? Yeah. Right. Just like Nike, we say, don't do it. No, that's not the right slogan. Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know what institution that is. That's not here. So we have very high standards for our students. They are adults, and we very clearly state to them what the expectations are. The faculty back that up on your syllabi and in your conversation with students. So it's not a secret what plagiarism is and what it isn't. We work really hard to make sure that our students who are here, who are from different countries or language, English is not their first language, that they're understanding what we mean by that, because sometimes there can be some difficulties there. But at the end of the day, the faculty have responsibility for the academic integrity issues on the campus. And as a faculty member, you you can make the decision of what you want to do if there's academic integrity issues within your classroom. You can do that yourself at any time. If you want to get the conduct office involved in that process, I strongly recommend you do, because sometimes we might have information to show that this is not the first time the student has had this issue. And we might want to do something different than a grade penalty or XYZ if we find that the student actually had a problem in another class as well. Not to mention whatever educational opportunities they might need in order to make different choices. So the faculty definitely have purview over that issue to make a decision and to exact whatever, appropriate sanction you think needs to happen. You can also refer it to student conduct, and they will do the same thing, and they'll work very closely with you. But that's something we take very, very seriously in our community, and I don't know what it even means to protect them from the faculty. Wow, that's... That's not the way it is here. Yeah, not the way it is here. Would you add anything to that, Paul or Shakur?
I would just say that you could always consult with the Office of Student Conduct, and I would encourage when you identify that there's academic misconduct, before you reach out, even contact our office to see if there's anything, like Robert said, there's another case that might help you. We also have an academic integrity seminar that we can assign if you really feel like the student just doesn't understand. We have some proactive resources, so please let us know, because we do want to focus on education. So anytime, just please give us a call, let us know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of the morning. It's been nice talking with you, and I hope to see you around campus. Ken?
In the misty days of yore, when I was an assistant professor, we used to do things. I had a staff member who worked with me at another university, and in the case of what we called roving eyes syndrome during exams, he would pluck a student up and place him or her in a seat right in front of the class. Probably not a good idea anymore. So be aware of misconduct, but also be aware of doing things that could be seen as shaming a student and not maybe be so appropriate. Because we have extra time, I'm going to do two things. One is give you more time for coffee, but the other is I can't resist. I'm a storyteller, and I heard so many opportunities for stories that I have to share a few related to that last session. First off, Paul and others mentioned if students are doing things that seem off, whether it's a case potentially of roving eyes, whether it's persistently missing class, clothing's disheveled, they smell bad, whatever might be happening, it could be a one-off, or it could be a symptom of something that would be nice that we recognize early rather than late. So feel free to talk with Paul. He's the Dean of Students. He can talk with you confidentially about most things, as we heard discussed. Let him know, and he won't yank a student aside and have major things happen, but he will be aware. And if it's the first time he's heard about this student, it becomes just something he's aware of. If it's the sixth time this month that he's heard about that student, it's starting to sound like something that could use more intervention. Okay, and we do have many sorts of interventions possible for students, all designed to support them when they need support. So please take advantage of that if you have the opportunity to. Shakura mentioned faculty in the community, the chemistry professor who happened to be working on the street. I moved here from LA, where I lived for 10 years, and one time in those 10 years did I accidentally run into somebody I knew. LA was a totally large, completely anonymous place to live. My first week in Eugene, I was teaching an organic chemistry lecture in Columbia 150 to about 350 students. I was shopping for groceries in the weekend, and popping out of the produce section was one of my students saying, "Hello, Professor Doxey. You are in a small community here. It's not tiny, but it's small, and so recognize that's an opportunity to be appreciated. It's also a risk of being observed." Okay. Paul Shang mentioned rush activities, which are, the Greek system is pretty strong on this campus, as on many campuses. You will see signs of it as the weeks proceed. Several years ago, I was called in to see if I could intervene, the sororities were having a problem with housing in terms of they move in a week early, which is why 90% of the people walking around campus last week were women, I think. And they have a number of activities, and it was causing problems in housing in terms of facilities and timing for moving in and things. There were also problems with missing classes when classes started. So I sat down to convene, and the bottom line is we had a conversation about how things could be different. And what I suggested to them was, Rush is kind of like adoption. You're building a family, and this notion that you can spend a week of dedicated time and choose the people you want to spend your life with has seemed so contrived. I said, why don't you spread it out? Why don't you give yourselves time to get to know each other better over the normal course of events? They ended up so excited about the prospect of doing this that they gave a presentation at a National Greek Society meeting about new ways to carry out Rush. I don't know if they carried through anymore, keep track, but look for opportunities to educate beyond the classroom as well. We have talked about move-in several times. I was scribbling notes, realizing I'm going to have a half hour to fill. I'm not going to fill a whole half hour. Move-in is an enormous responsibility for us. These parents, I already mentioned, they're dropping their kids off, and we're going to take care of them. Think about that. Some of you, how many of you have dropped off kids at college already? Not very many. I have. We've first off, be thankful that we have so many professionals working on campus. We just heard from a number of them. It's not just our responsibility, it's our responsibility. So the kids will be in good shape. What about us? That responsibility is a pretty big one, right? Some of you are about to start teaching maybe for the first time next week. Maybe you've got a huge class in a huge classroom, and that's got some stress. It's also got some bit of anonymity in some regards. Maybe you're teaching a small senior seminar. There's no protection there. You're in a room with 10 people. You're going to get to know each other very well. What do we have for you? How come we don't have faculty life up here? Well, we're going to have a coffee break, and I don't want to tromp on the toes of the next speakers, but we do have a large operation called Human Resources. They operate under the umbrella of the Vice President for Finance and Administration, who will be up after the coffee break. I'm not certain how much she plans to talk about these sorts of faculty supports, but I don't want to anticipate and step on her. So let me just mention quickly, there are plenty of opportunities for faculty. You're going to hear about technical support later this morning. You've got technical support drop-in sessions this afternoon. We've heard about lots of things. What about the non-technical side of things? There are opportunities. Most importantly, maybe you heard from Bruce McAllister, our new University Ombudsperson. He is a safe, informed, remarkably friendly place to go in the event of any needs, whether they're personal or professional. We do have a number of employee assistance programs as well. And I should mention that we have opportunities to support not only you personally, but perhaps many of you are or will become supervisors, and you're doing fine, but someone you're supervising needs help. What do you do for them? So those opportunities are available. I think you'll hear about some of them after the coffee break, but if not, we will find a way to fold more information about that in as you proceed. All right, so with that, we're early. Breakfast is still out there, so if you need to re-carbo load, I think you can still do so. And we will reconvene at 10:45.